Okay, I would begin. Again, this webinar is being recorded. So you would gain access to the recording at the end of the webinar. So today I'll just be taking you through, the next steps after you've received your offer from DCU. So first off, I'll just say like a big congratulations to all of you for getting the offer to study at DCU. And I'll just take you through the next steps after receiving your offer. Okay. So just before I start, I will just go through a few housekeeping rules. Yeah, I'm guessing your mics are automatically muted already. But if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A. And at the end of the webinar, we will go through your questions. But one thing I'd like to say is try to keep your questions as general as possible. We will not be able to respond to very specific questions. So if you have more specific queries, you can send us an email. My colleague Frank would drop the email that you can send those specific queries to, and then we would deal with those via email. Okay. So on the call today, the presenters are myself. I am Priya Bisina, and I'm a recruitment officer specifically focusing on Middle East and Africa. I'm also joined by Frank Farrell, who is our marketing officer. He would be looking through the Q&A and fielding questions that way. But we also have Colette and Brenda on the call as well, but they are not hosts today. Okay. So first things first, just to take you through, I guess, like a quick timeline after you've received your offer, and then I'll go a bit more into detail about what each of those steps entail. Okay. So this is a very, very summarized timeline. Obviously, first you've received your offer. The next step would be to accept that offer, and I'll go into detail about what that entails as well at DCU. And then the next step would be to start considering or looking at accommodation options that are available to you. Again, I'll go a bit more into detail in subsequent slides as well. Okay. Then the next step would be to pay your fees. So you can either choose to pay 100% of your fees or you can pay a particular deposit. I'll go a bit into detail about that in the subsequent slides. Then, if you require a visa to study in Ireland, then you need to make your application for visas as well. And then you need to register as a student once you have received your visa and arrived in Dublin. Okay. Then, yeah, you plan your arrival to come and then you attend orientation and, register with immigration. I will go into detail about every one of these steps in the subsequent slides. Okay, so starting off with, your DCU offer. I'm sure all of you have received something similar. So this offer has very, very important information, including like the program that you have received an offer for, and the acceptance deadline as well for that program. Okay. So the next step would be to try to accept, you need to consider that offer. Is that something that you would want to accept? And you also need to pay attention to the offer deadline. Okay. But another thing is that for some programs, even if that offer deadline elapses, you can always request an extension. And I'll give you information about how to go about requesting for an extension of your offer as well. Okay. Then the next thing would be to try to accept that offer. So you need to log back into your portal and then respond to the offer. by clicking accept, and then you'd be prompted to make a deposit payment. So you'd need to pay a 500 euro fee deposit as a sign of a willingness to accept that offer. One thing to note is that this deposit is non-refundable. I'll say that again. This deposit is non-refundable except you meet, there are only two circumstances where this deposit can be refunded, and that is if your visa was refused or if you do not meet the conditions of your offer. So some of you might have received conditional offers, which would state what the conditions of gaining a firm offer are. So, say, for example, like you have not received your final parchment degree, or you have yet to complete your English language exam. So once you meet that condition, then you get a conditional offer. So if you do not meet those conditions or your visa is refused, you can request a refund. But bear in mind that an administration fee of about 150 euros would be deducted as well from that. But under any other circumstances, that 500 euros is non-refundable. Another thing is that that 500 euros counts towards your final tuition as well. Okay. So after you've accepted your offer, the next step would be to start to consider accommodation options. One thing that I would advise you to do is to start this process as soon as you can, okay? And you have two options. You can either choose to stay on campus. So DCU has a few accommodation open for international students, and those are available through our accommodation portal. Okay, the accommodations for DCU applications for on-campus accommodation would open in April. So from April, you'll be able to make an application for on-campus accommodation, and we will also be holding a webinar around April as well with someone from the accommodation team, where they'll give you information about how to go about applying and what the whole process is like. Okay. The other option that you have is to choose to stay off campus. Okay. So our student union has a student pad website, where they built this facility for landlords around DCU to be able to advertise any spare rooms that they might have as well. Your other option would be to go through third-party websites like daft.ie, rent.ie, or others. We would also be holding an off-campus accommodation webinar as well, where we go through tips and tricks of finding accommodation and ways to stay safe while seeking accommodation as well. Okay. So be sure to register for those webinars. We will be sending the details of those webinars to you very, very soon. So keep an eye on your email for those. Okay. The next step is to make your fee payment. Okay, so as an international student, you have the option to pay your fees in two installments. Okay, so you can choose to pay 60% before the start of the first semester, and then you pay the remaining 40% after at the start of the second semester, so sometime around January. Okay. But you also have the option to pay 100% of your fees as well if you have that as well. Okay, so it is recommended that you make this deposit payment, particularly if you require a visa, that you make this payment before going to apply for your visa, because one of the requirements of the visa application is that you have made fees, and you need to be able to show proof that you have paid a certain amount towards your tuition fees as well. Okay. It is advisable that you make that payment through the link in your offer. So you make that payment through TransferMate. The reason why it is advisable to make the payments through TransferMate is that it's a lot more straightforward. It gets to the school a lot quicker. And you also receive a receipt from TransferMate that you can use to show proof of applying for your visa. I'm saying that because at the moment, DCU does not issue any fee receipts. I'll say that again. We do not issue any fee receipts. So that receipt that you receive from TransferMate can serve as proof that you have made payments towards your tuition fee. Again, in the background, like we on a weekly basis send a spreadsheet of fees that have been paid by students to the Irish immigration as well. Okay. But if you still require like a verbal confirmation, you could send an email and then we can confirm how much you have paid towards your fees in an email. Okay. Then the next thing is to consider to check if you require a visa. As I said, like not everyone requires a visa to come and study in Ireland. But if you do, I cannot stress this enough. You need to start the process as soon as you can, okay? Because visa applications, particularly for Ireland, for some countries can take between 8 to 12 weeks at a minimum. So if you require a visa, the sooner you can start the process, the better it is for your chances of getting that, okay? So you can, learn if you need a visa by visiting the Irish immigration website. There is a PDF that has a list of the programs that require, or the countries that require a visa, or the countries that do not require a visa. So I would suggest that you consult that to get that information. Okay. And then, once you have determined that you need a visa, the first step would be to fill out the application form on the AVAT system. And you can find way more information about visas on the Irish immigration website. But we will be holding a visa and immigration website webinar tomorrow. So if you are yet to register for that webinar and you require a visa, I would strongly suggest that you register for that webinar as well, because yeah, I'll try to give as much information that I have about making visa applications to Ireland in general. Okay, so yeah, be sure to register for that. Okay. So once you are approved for your visa, again, I would stress that you do not register as a student until you receive approval of your visa. The next step would be to register online. Okay. The registration key dates will be published very, very soon. But be sure to register for the webinar as well. So we would also have a webinar about registering as a student further down the line. But again, I would stress that if you require a visa, please wait till you have been confirmed for your visa or approved for your visa before registering as a student. Okay. Then once you register, it will now be to plan your arrival to arrive in DCU. Okay, so you need to plan your travel, including booking your flights and arranging transportation from the airport to your accommodation. DCU does not organize any airport transfers because DCU is very close to the airport, and there is like a single bus that can bring you directly to DCU or straight into town from the airport. Okay. You also, it would be in your best interest as well to also research the city of Dublin and familiarize yourself with the culture and lifestyle and attractions as well. Then you can also explore DCU's campus as well, visit our website and take virtual tours as well. Then you need to connect with our student ambassadors. So we have the Going app We will be launching that very, very soon. So keep an eye on your email for that. That going app will give you the opportunity to connect with other prospective students as well. You would also be able to chat with staff and current student ambassadors as well. So that way you get, more experience and you can ask all the questions that you have as well there. Okay. And then once you arrive at DCU, you would also need to attend our orientation program. So that orientation program would help to sort of like guide you into life as a DCU student. Okay. And this would be a very great opportunity to also meet other international students that maybe you might have been chatting with online as well. We would also be holding or organizing a webinar for orientation as well. And information about like the dates for orientation will be announced very, very soon. Okay. Um, Also, I would urge you to consult our international student support page to get more details about that as well. Okay. And then the last step after you arrive at DCU would be to register with the immigration. So this part applies to every student. So whether you need a visa or not, you must register with the immigration. Okay, I would go a bit more into detail about this as well in the webinar tomorrow. Okay, so if you're a citizen of a country outside, you must report to the immigration when you arrive and you must register with the ISD. I will give you information about how to go about booking an appointment and what documents are required for that registration. Okay. Again, just to reiterate, we will be sending out the details for the Going app very, very soon. So please keep an eye out for that. And again, this is a very great way to meet peers and fellow incoming students. It will also help you to plan and prepare better for arriving at DCU as well. Okay. Um, and be sure to follow us on our social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. Now we would go through the questions that you have and then try to provide answers to them. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Priya. Um, there's a lot of questions in the Q&A, but a lot of them are fairly similar. I've answered a few of them
Okay.
quickly with typed
Okay.
answers, but a question that's come up a few times is that people have paid their deposit, but they haven't um received a receipt or a confirmation for the deposit.
Okay. Okay. So when you pay, again, as I said, like we do not issue receipts for making fee payments. So when you accept your offer through the portal and pay that 500 euros, your status on your portal should change from firm offer to firm acceptance. Okay. So if you log into your portal after making that payment and you see firm acceptance, it means that your deposit has been accepted by DCU. But if you log into the portal and you are still seeing firm offer, then you can reach out to us and then we'll try to figure out like what the problem is. So you would not receive any other offer letter or confirmation that you have paid. The only confirmation that you will get would be when you go into the portal, it should read firm acceptance. Okay.
And then related to that as well, Priya, people have
Mhm.
asked that deposit will it be reduced from the program fees when they're paying their fees?
Yes, yes. So as I said, like that 500 euros, it counts as a deposit towards your tuition fee. So again, like if you've paid that 500 euros, when you want to pay your final tuition fee, you can deduct that 500 euros from the total. Yeah.
And then this question has been asked kind of in a lot of different ways, but what is
Okay.
the deadline for people once they accept, I'm guessing, the conditional offer to submit their condition, whether it be English exams,
Okay.
transcripts?
So again, like I wouldn't know like the exact deadline, but typically it is always before registration. So again, if you have an offer now, you need to be able to accept and meet all the requirements of your offer before registration. So I'd say around like August time should be when you should be looking to get a firm offer. Okay.
And then similar to that for people that don't need a visa, is when is the
Mhm.
deadline for them to pay their fees? Is that the same? It's just before registration.
Yes, yes. So you need to pay your fees before registration. Okay. Yeah, because when you come to register at DCU, they would also check that you have paid a certain amount towards your tuition before you can with a full year accommodation, or you can go with like 6 months, 3 months, or something. So it just depends on you. Yeah.
Sorry, I got kicked out there for some reason. I think my internet just went a little bit
Uh,
funny for a second.
that's okay.
Um, Sorry, you can continue on to the next question. I'm not sure which one you did last.
Yeah, so I just did one asking about accommodations.
Another
Okay.
question I think that's coming up a few times is that
Mhm.
people can't access the student pad without a student email or a student number. So I think
Yeah.
we had that in the past, and the students' union were able to give us a workaround. So
Yes. Yes.
we can reach out to them and figure out what to put in for your student email or student number instead, and then we'll send it out to every offer holder. And then we can
Yeah.
also we'll raise it in the accommodation webinars as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I can see a question about the Government of Ireland scholarship. Okay, so it said my friend has applied for so I just want to like use this to address that Government of Ireland scholarship. Again, like when you apply to DCU, we like you wouldn't get a response until like a minimum of about 4 weeks. So depending on when your friend applied, they might not get their offer before the deadline. Again, we treat applications on a first come, first serve basis. Okay. So we wouldn't want to, I guess, prioritize other people's applications over other people. I hope that helps.
Um, and then as well, someone's asking about they have a conditional offer and they're applying for the Government of Ireland scholarship similar.
Mhm, mhm.
So is it possible to extend the offer acceptance date until the Government of Ireland result is released?
Okay, so again, for the Government of Ireland scholarship, what I would say to majority of students would be to hold off on accepting your offer till you know the outcome of the application. So if the only way you can fund your fees is if you get that Government of Ireland scholarship, I would suggest that you hold off on paying that acceptance fee because again, as I said, that acceptance fee is non-refundable. So you would not be able to get the deposit back if you do not get the Government of Ireland scholarship. So I'd say hold off on accepting your offer, and when a decision has been made, then you can come back. But you also run the risk of not getting a place on the program. Because again, depending on the program it is, spaces might have filled up by the time that you come back. But again, we will not be able to extend your offer until June. So I'll just suggest that you wait till the whole Government of Ireland process is complete. before accepting your offer. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to flag again, for anyone, there's a lot of questions very specific to people's in particular applications. So for any questions that are particular to your application and aren't very general and will cover kind of everybody, send them to
Yeah.
the email that I've put into the chat, and then we'll be able to deal with that with more when we have more time. And we don't have time to go through everybody's kind of specific questions today. Um,
Yeah. Okay, lose the chances
so,
study.
I'll just have a look through to see if there's so someone's just asking about the percentage that they'll get the accommodation on campus. So there isn't it all depends on how many people apply, obviously. So it's done on a lottery basis. So everyone that applies, it's a lottery for who gets it. But we will have an accommodation webinar at the start of April, when the application's open. So be sure to join that, and we'll have somebody from the accommodation team who will go into more detail of how to apply and the different processes, what the documents that you'll need, what you need to submit when you're submitting your application.
Okay. Someone here is asking if they need to pay any extra apart from fees for accessing fitness clubs and societies or library. So most of the facilities on DCU, you do not need to pay anything extra to access them. Our gym. So we have a full-size gym with a swimming pool. There is a subsidized rate for students, but everything else, including labs, library, you do not need to pay to access them. Clubs and societies, depending on the clubs, they might have like a very small joining fee, but those fees are very, very small. Like I'm thinking maybe 5 to 10 euros maximum to join them. Yeah.
And then somebody is just asking for the fee payment link. It's linked in the offer letter. So the link
Yes.
for transfer made should be on
Yes.
your offer letter. That's the
Yeah. If you
easiest way to
check,
find
yeah,
it.
the second page of the offer letter, you should see the link to transfer it.
Um, so again, just have a
Someone
look.
is asking, okay, sorry.
No, go
Someone
ahead.
is asking if the final degree doesn't come in time, if they can defer their offer. So for deferrals, to be able to defer your offer, you need to pay that 500 euros and accept your offer. So if you do not Oh, okay, but yeah, that means that you have a conditional offer. So you will not be able to defer a conditional offer. It has to be a firm offer that you have accepted. I hope that helps.
There's a question again about the course start date and also the orientation start date. So the academic calendar for next year will be published probably in the next couple of months. So as soon as that gets published, you'll be notified of what the start date will be, and an accommodation will most likely be in that 2 weeks previous to the start date.
Yeah. Someone here is
Um,
asking if the okay, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, if the tuition fee mentioned in the offer letter covers all expenses, or if there are any additional fees that need to be paid separately. If so, how much would it be approximately? So the tuition fee in your offer, again, is specifically for tuition fee. Okay. So that's just your tuition to DCU. Other expenses that you might incur would include things like your accommodation, transportation, and feeding. Okay. So I would say like a rough estimate for living within Dublin would be somewhere between 15 to 20,000 euros for the year. But again, it depends on you and the type of accommodation that you're able to secure. But that should be approximately like how much you should be looking to spend extra for the year.
Um, so there's also questions about deferring places. So deferring to January, or deferring to next September if there's no January intake.
Okay, so let me speak about the deferring to January. So right now you hold an offer for September. Okay. So the way our deferrals work is they can only defer your current offer to the next September. They wouldn't be able to defer that offer to January. Okay. So if you request a deferral, you can only get a deferral to next September. If you want to be considered for a January intake, if the program that you have applied for has a January intake, you would need to send in a second preference application for January. Then you would need to withdraw the offer that you have for September because you cannot hold two offers. But if you have accepted your offer and paid that 500 euros, um, you would need to pay another 500 euros to accept that new January offer. But bear in mind that the 500 euros that you paid for this September and the January both count towards your final tuition. Okay. So at the end of the day, like say maybe when you want to pay your tuition fee for January, um, you would just pay your tuition fee minus 1,000 euros instead of 500 euros. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And then I'm just trying to find, we've got a lot of questions have been asked repeatedly, so we've answered a lot of them as we go
Yeah.
through them. Um, Again, this around
Tuition.
submitting the requirement or the deadlines for submitting the conditional requirements.
Yeah.
Is this coming up again and again?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So someone is asking like what are the payment strategies for DCO accommodation? So again, in that webinar, we would go through exactly like how payments can be made, but I believe that they have different payment structures. So I think you can choose to pay on a monthly basis. You can choose to pay maybe for 3 months, or you can pay for the full year as well. So again, like when you go on our accommodation website, I think I can throw that into the chat. Um, you would get a breakdown on the actual costs. Okay, so I'll put that in the chat now.
there's also a few questions around English language requirements and exams, and people saying are exceptions made. So like, there's a few questions of people saying I've got 5.5 in a part of my IELTS, but everything else is 6, or I've got 120 overall in Duolingo, but some is less than 110. So no exceptions will be made. So whatever the
Yeah, yeah,
outlined English language requirements are on the website, I can drop them into the chat as well. They are the scores
yeah.
that have to be met. There isn't, and you can't combine different
Yeah,
exams, and you can't combine different sittings of the same exam. So the score has to be achieved all in the one sitting and all in the
yeah,
same type of exam.
yeah. So yeah, just to add to that, like those scores are the minimum requirements. So you need to at least achieve that minimum or exceed it to qualify for the program.
So I think this is a question that we kind of get every year as well, Priya, which is a pretty good question. So if they received a bit of a scholarship and they've also paid some of their deposit, should they pay the 60% after cutting the scholarship and deposit amount from the whole fees, or should they pay the 60% based on the fee price and then the scholarship and deposit will be deducted from the remaining fee?
Yes, yes. So you need to pay 60% of the whole fee, and then the scholarship will be deducted from the second installment. So when you want to make your fee payment initially, you need to do 60% of the total, pay that, and then the scholarship will be deducted from the final installment.
And then someone's just asking about the fee structure for the entire year. I think you've slightly touched on that already, just that it's 60% before your visa application or before registration if you don't need a
Yes.
visa. And then the remaining 40% will be before semester two.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, So someone's asking about which country does not need a visa or how do they find that out? I know we'll probably go into more detail on that tomorrow, but
Yes, so I'll go a bit more into detail about that. But we will be sharing this slides with you. I think there is a link to a PDF that has information about what countries require a visa and which ones do not. Give me a second, I'll paste that into the chat as well. Yeah. So yeah, if you
um,
click on that, yeah, you'd see the information there. Okay.
someone's just asking as well for a quick explanation of how transfer mate works.
Okay. So once you click on transform it, like I think it's pretty intuitive. I do not have like any particular information, but once you click on the link, it will give you instructions. I think you probably need to create an account and then link that to your DCU offer. That's why I suggest that you click the link directly from your offer. So you just follow the instructions on the page and you should be able to make the payment that way. Okay.
Um, and then there's a few questions about orientation and start dates. As you mentioned, the academic calendar will be published closer in probably the next couple of months, we would guess. But as soon as we have that information, we'll share that with everybody.
Yeah. Someone is asking if there are any other fully funded scholarships besides the Irish government, the HEA, John Thompson Masters in Digital Marketing. So there are no fully funded, no other fully funded scholarships besides those ones that you have mentioned. Okay. And yes, you are allowed to work while you study. So you're allowed to work up to 20 hours per week while studying at DCU. But yeah,
And then there's a question about if they're staying off campus, is it easy to,
access public
um,
transportation.
yeah. So I think the best advice is probably to stay on the north side of Dublin. So DCU is located on the north side. Everywhere on the north side is very accessible to DCU. There's great bus links. If you're staying in the city centre, it's the same. It's very easy to get to. If you're staying on the south side, again, it is accessible by public transport, but your commute will just be a bit longer.
Mhm.
So, there's three different postcodes probably that are the best to say, and that would be closest, which would be Dublin 7, Dublin 9, and Dublin 3. There would be kind of the three closest, but anywhere in the north side of Dublin should be fairly accessible by public transport.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone is asking if they can't attend the visa and immigration webinar, if there will be a recording. Yes. So as long as you register for the webinar, a recording of all the webinars will be sent to you. So I suggest that even if you cannot attend, please register for the webinar so that way you would receive the recording and you can follow along that way. Okay. Um, I see. I, yes, there's still more questions about English language. We've spoken about those.
Yeah.
So someone is like, I've seen a few questions about living expenses. I think I've touched a bit on that. Again, as I said, like extra living expenses beside your tuition would be your accommodation, your transportation, your feeding, and then entertainment. Okay. So again, on average for the year, you should be looking to budget about, I'd say, 15,000 all the way up. Okay. About 60 to 70% of that budget would go towards your accommodation. And transportation is subsidized for students. So again, like if you choose to travel by public transport, you would get a leap card that is capped for buses. I think it's 20 euros. And then within the first 90 minutes, you only spend, I think, about €1, €1 20. And then there's a weekly cap of about 20 euros as well. So you can budget that way. You can also choose to cycle as well. At least like Dublin is consistently like expanding its cycling and infrastructure as well. So it's a lot more easy to access it that way. So again, depending on the mode of transportation that you choose, and the kind of food that you choose to eat, again, a student that is choosing to eat out most of the time will probably spend more on average than someone who chooses to buy like the raw food stuff and then make their own food. Okay. So again, like you should just be budgeting about 15,000 all the way up to about 20,000 for the year for living expenses. Okay.
There's somebody just looking for clarification on if their visa is refused, or they don't meet the conditions of the offer, it is
Mhm.
possible to get the deposit refunded except for that administration fee.
Yes, yes. So if you apply for your visa and you are refused for the visa, you can request a refund. So you get a refund of your tuition and your deposit minus that administration fee, and then any bank transfer fees as well. Okay.
So someone's asking about the career fair that takes place in August. So we will have a webinar in the summer, so closer to when the college term is going to start with their career service, who will go through all the different available services and supports they have, about their career fairs, about the drop-in sessions that they have. So again, you'll get an email about that closer to the start of the term, and just make sure to attend that, and you'll be able to get all the careers information.
What services they provide, and they would also be able to guide you about like the career landscape here in Ireland as well. Okay. Okay. So can you talk more about the career fair that supposedly takes place in October? So again, like once you register as a student in DCU and you arrive on campus, once you go to the careers website, you would see more details about those career fairs. So again, they organize a wide variety of career fairs. Okay. So those career fairs would be similar to like fairs like where they would invite companies within Dublin. So you get the opportunity to start to network with potential employers. You know, you can ask them questions about their company. You can also try to find out about like, how to position yourself best as well. So, but in that career webinar, they will go through that in more detail. Okay.
There's also questions, Priya, about health insurance. I know that's something
Yeah.
we'll probably touch on tomorrow.
In the webinar. Yes,
Um,
so I'll touch on the health insurance as well tomorrow. There are a number of health insurance providers that you can choose from, and that would help you just get the best one. So I'll touch on that tomorrow at the webinar. Okay. Mhm. So again, like the if you have purchased like private health insurance from back home, you need to consider if it meets the requirements, particularly if you need to apply for an Irish visa. So you would need to confirm with that private health insurance if it will work for you in Ireland. And it's that private health insurance needs to meet certain requirements. Okay. Um, but I'll go over those requirements in the webinar tomorrow.
um, you've already put in, there's the questions coming up again and again about where they can apply for the accommodation. So you've put the
Mhm.
accommodation website in the chat already. So for anyone
Okay.
looking for that link, you can go to their website and they have information on when applications will open. And as we were saying, we'll also have a webinar at the start of April, which will cover all the on-campus accommodation stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing like an interesting question here. Someone says like they were skeptical about DCU compared to other universities. How do universities in Ireland work? That in India, the quality of university varies on a much larger scale. So I'd say here in Ireland in general, there is not that much difference in the quality of education that you receive in universities. So universities are much closer to themselves here in Ireland because again, like the space is very, very regulated. So they would only approve universities that are of a certain quality to provide instruction to students. So I'd say for DCU, like how DCU compares to other universities at the moment, like we pride ourselves on like we are a very like career enterprise focused university. So we place a lot more emphasis on producing future ready graduates, So again, things like those career services, the fairs that they offer. Again, the academics are also very, very strong as well. Like we recently made it into the top 400 of universities globally. We are also within the top 60 of young universities, so universities under 50 years of age. But again, I'd say the quality of the teaching that you would receive would be pretty similar across most Irish universities.
And then there's a question, I think we touched on it slightly, but maybe we can just clarify. Just so for the firm acceptance, so when they accept their offer, they don't get another offer letter when they accept it. It's just a firm offer, and it
Yes,
should say on the portal
firm
firm
acceptance.
acceptance, but that
Yes.
there isn't another letter indicating that you've accepted. So that
Yeah.
flag on your portal saying firm acceptance is what indicates if you've accepted or not.
Exactly. Yeah. So as I said, like once you see firm acceptance, it means that your offer has changed and your seat has been secured on the program. Okay.
So yeah, there is a lot of questions and it's hard obviously to get through every single
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on a lot. We might take just a few more and
Yeah.
then again, at the email that I've put into the chat, you can always reach out to that and we'll answer any specific cases or other questions that we didn't touch on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Someone is asking like when they purchase, like when they need to purchase their health insurance. So again, it depends. Like if you need a visa to come to Ireland, you need to purchase your health insurance before going to make your visa application because having that health insurance that meets the requirements is one of the requirements of applying for your visa. Again, as I said, I will go through that in the webinar tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. Someone is asking like if I paid 500 euros, would you reserve my seat or should I pay 60% to reserve my seat? So again, paying that 500 euros reserves your seat. Okay. So once you've accepted and paid 500 euros, your seat is secure. But you need to pay that 60% at least before going to apply for your visa because you need to show proof that you have paid some percentage of your fees. Okay. Complete my degree by June
so
or
where
July.
when can we apply for scholarships is a question. So for all internal scholarships at DCU, when you apply to the university, you automatically apply for the scholarship. And
Yeah.
on your offer letter, it should say whether you've been accepted for a scholarship or
Or
not.
not.
So there's
Yes.
no separate application. So once you apply to the university, you apply for the scholarship as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Somebody has a question, which is they're just feeling excited for DCU. So it's nice to see questions like that as well.
That's good. That's good.
Um,
So someone
so
is asking if I pay my complete tuition fee now and then I get the Government of Ireland scholarship, will my fee be refunded? Yes. So if you choose to make your fee payment now and then you are accepted for the Government of Ireland scholarship, then yes, your fee will be refunded to you.
and this is a good question, I think. Do they get a receipt from TransferMate that they can use during their visa process?
Yes. So if you pay your fees through TransferMate, TransferMate should send you a receipt in your email. If you get a receipt from TransferMate.
And then if the visa gets delayed, I think this is a good question as well that always comes up closer to September. if the visa
Yeah.
gets delayed, can the joining date be extended? So that normally comes down to the discretion of the program chair. So
Yes.
they'll usually let students join a week or maybe up to 2 weeks late. After two
Mhm.
weeks late, a lot of program chairs will say that you've missed too much content and that's too late to join. But again, it does come down to their discretion. There's no kind of exact rules on
Yeah.
exactly how late you can join.
Yeah.
So if you're having issues with your visa, the best people to reach out to is your program chair. Let them know the
Yeah.
situation, let them know how long you think it will take, and then they'll be able to advise you best.
Yeah, that's why I keep stressing as well that you need to make your visa application as soon as possible so that you do not run into any of those issues. Again, as I said, like for most people who need a visa, you'd need to apply at least 2 to 3 months in advance. So you need to start sort of like preparing yourself to make your visa application at least by the end of May. That should be kind of like the final date. So you just need to target like getting all your documents sorted, making all the necessary preparations, and making your visa application by May at the latest. Okay.
Um,
Yeah, most of okay, so someone is asking if there are any support for job or internships from DC. Again, for most of the master's programs that we have, because they are just 1 year, there are no sort of like baked in internships as part of them. Some of them do have them. I think like the MA in journalism has, I think, about a 2 months internship as part of the program. But some other programs also have what we call a practicum as well. So it's kind of like a hybrid between a traditional internship and a research the thesis. Okay, so you would essentially be working with real world clients to provide solution, and then you write about that again. So that too is kind of like a best of both worlds scenario. But also the career service also provides a lot of support. They have a job board, I think at the moment they have about 1,300 companies registered on that job board. So whenever any of those companies have any openings, they would advertise them on that job board. And the career service also has a lot of resources as well. They have information about like writing CVs, particularly for Ireland, writing cover letters, preparing for job interviews. They also provide like hands-on support services as well, including CV clinics. So when you come to campus, you can go to the career service. They can look through your CV and give you like actual pointers on how to improve that CV as well. And then they can also provide job interview preparations as well. So they do like mock interviews with you as well. So yeah, there's a lot of support, but again, DCU is not going to make the application for the jobs for you. You have to be the one to seek out those opportunities and then apply for them. Okay.
there's a couple of questions relating to going as well. So just when you'll get the invite will be most likely towards the end of March. So, if you haven't got it by the end of March, you can reach out to us via social media or via email, and we'll get you the registration link. And
Yeah.
then, do we get the invitation from DCU? I think is related to that as well. Is yes, so it will also be sent out in an email, similar to how the invitation for these webinars was sent out. So again, just make sure you're keeping an eye on the email that you used for your application, and
Yeah.
all information regarding the Go app, other webinars, different things to help you prepare for and plan for arrival, all will go to that email.
Yeah. There's a question here, someone asking the outcome of the government scholarship comes out in June. Would that be too late to get accommodation, pay tuition, apply for visa? How would you recommend planning the procedure? Okay. So again, since the if the only way you can fund your studies at DCU is by getting that Government of Ireland scholarship, I would suggest that you wait till the process is complete and you have confirmation before applying for your visa. Again, that too means that you might run into issues because it might delay the process for you. But if you want to stay on campus, I would suggest that you apply as soon as the portal opens in April. Again, the decision for accommodation will not be made until I think about June or August. It's somewhere around then. So I'd suggest like you just apply for that. But again, with applying for your visa, because again, you will not be able to meet the requirements for the visa anyway. And you cannot use the fact that you have applied for the Government of Ireland scholarship to show proof that you've paid your fees. So if the Government of Ireland scholarship is the only way you can fund your fees, I would suggest that you wait for the decision to be made before you apply for your visa. Okay.
Then
Okay, so I think, yeah,
there's one more question maybe that we could just touch on. So
sure.
some people are asking about finding a module like wise curriculum or the structure of the program. So sadly we don't have a complete breakdown for courses anymore on the website for the modules, but each course page should have an outline of the different modules you'll study across the whole year.
Yeah.
It also will have an email for your program chair. So if you reach out to your program chair, they'll also be able to share you more details of which modules be studied in which semester, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so we'll just take a few more questions because we are running out of time. Um, but there's a question here, which campus do Masters in Computing Data Analytics students report to? So I'd say the vast majority of international students would receive their lectures on our Glasnevin campus. That's our largest campus. So the vast majority of programs would be taken on this campus, but there might be a few of you that might receive lectures on our All Hallows campus, but just depends on what program you have applied for. But I'd say majority of you would receive your lectures on Glasnevin campus. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I've gotten a lot of those like what campus programs, yeah,
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah, there was a good few about campuses, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, as Priya said, most people will be on the Glasnevin campus.
yeah. Okay, I think we might call it a day there. I think most of the questions that you've asked, I have answered them in this webinar. So again, like once we send the recording, you can go back and watch that. Because like yeah, we've provided answers to those questions. But yeah, in the the visa webinar tomorrow, I will go through the countries that require a visa. I see that some people are having issues getting that PDF. I would have a slide that has all the countries, and I would also again like you can get the correct information if you go to irishimmigration.ie. That website is very, very intuitive and has like a lot of information about stuff like that. Okay. Thank you so much for the engagement. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow for the webinar. Okay.
Thank you so much, guys. It's great to see
You're
so
welcome.
many students join, and we should see
Yeah.
you again tomorrow and over the
Yeah.
next few months at different webinars.
Mhm.